But notice as well that the viper shows up when Paul helps in building the fire. The snake was on the island the whole time. But as soon as Paul takes the wood to help build the fire, he gets bitten. They don't show up until you start building something. And as long as you aren't doing nothing, then there are no stakes around. But the minute you start to get to work, you show up. The minute you start to get ready to do God's business, obstacles start coming in the way. The snake had 275 other people to bite. But the one who puts the wood in the fire, that's the one that the snake chooses to bite. You see, the snake had other options, other prisoners. The devil doesn't bother people that are not doing anything for his kingdom. The snake bit him because he was building something that was going to kill the snake. And because the snake bit him because he was building something that was going to kill the snake. And because when he shook the snake off, he shook it off into the fire. And therefore the fire was going to kill the snake. So the snake is trying to kill him before he builds something that will kill the snake. And that's why the snake is biting you. Because what you are trying to build is going to take out the enemy. So Paul gathers a bundle of sticks. And out of the bundle of sticks, there's a snake inside one of the bundles of sticks. It wasn't just any snake, but a poisonous snake. And the snake takes an opportunity to bite Paul. And when the snake bites Paul, the people start murmuring and talking among themselves. And they say that he was a murderer and that God was punishing him. It's right there in the text. It says in verse number 4, when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang onto his hand, they said among themselves, no doubt, this man is a murderer, whom though he had escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffereth not to live. So the people start murmuring and talking among themselves. And they say, well, he has to be a murderer. And that God was taking vengeance or punishing him. He had escaped the sea, but the snake is going to kill him. You know, and I try not to judge the people of Malta because, after all, these people were kind to the prisoners. But isn't it interesting that their kindness turns to skepticism the moment that something negative happens to Paul? After all, he's on a ship with a bunch of prisoners, so he must be guilty. So they began to say that he is a murderer and that he must deserve this. It's quite likely that the people of Malta had seen this type of snake before and had seen the effects of the bite. And it's also a fair assumption that since they saw Paul being among the prisoners that ended up in Melita, that it is obvious that the gods had exacted judgment on Paul. They're essentially saying that he deserved this, or that it was indeed karma. You know, sometimes people form judgments of people without knowing them. Have you ever heard people say that my blood just ain't ain't take him? You know nothing about the individual, but my blood just ain't take him. We need to be people who are not quick to judge people without knowing the facts first. And these people of Malta, they were guilty of that. They were saying, well, he's among the prisoners, so he must be a prisoner himself. He must be guilty as well. And that's why the snake bite him. and that God is going to exact judgment upon him. Verses number 3, verses number 4 to verses number 6, it says, when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hang on to his hand, they said among themselves, no doubt this man is a murderer, whom though he had escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffered him not to live. And he shook the beast into the fire and felt no harm. Howbeit, they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly. But after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. I want us to recognize that we may be bitten, but God controls what seeks to kill us. So yes, Paul gets a snake bite by reaching for the wood to warm himself. And some scholars have said that he did not notice a snake because snakes sometimes stiffen in cold conditions. So the snake found a way to blend in to its environment. So Paul reaches thinking that the environment is safe, and he ends up with a venomous snake attached. But snakes don't know that God has the ability to control their venom. So what I've learned is that snakes can bite, but you don't have to die, because God controls what seeks to kill you. Let's take a moment to assess the situation or the condition by which the snake attached itself. The text says that it was raining and that it was cold outside. So God, watch this, created the condition for the snake to strive just so that he can control its venom in front of everybody. What I've learned is that God will allow snakes to show up and allow snakes to bite just to show us that he controls the situations that would ordinarily kill us. I believe that this text is about the control of God. It's about God's ability to control every facet and every asset of our lives. It's about his sovereign power to make sure that his children will be all right all the time. God grants the promise of his protection and the power of his provision. We see God's protection in verse 5 and verse number 6, because the snake bites them. And of course, the people are watching and waiting for him to die, because they're saying, you know, they've seen this kind of viper attack or bite people before. It's a venomous viper. And they know that within a matter of minutes or hours, that people will fall down dead. But strangely, Paul just shakes it off. And could I tell you that some things that we need to just shake off? Just like a Paul shook off this viper. Some things that happen to us, we need to shake off. You know, sometimes I believe as Christians that we are too thin-skinned, and we allow things to affect us that really shouldn't affect us. And Paul uses the example of this snake. He just shakes it off, and he continues doing God's work. And sometimes in ministry, things might happen. We may be bitten, but we can just shake it off. And don't be deterred by the things that happen to us, because indeed God is in control. God is in charge.